My aunt stole my wedding venue, so I waited 2 years and booked her daughter's dream venue first. When I got engaged to Derek, I was over the moon. We'd been together since college, and I'd been dreaming about our wedding for years. Derek proposed on the beach where we'd had our first date, down on one knee as the sun set behind him. The ring was perfect, an antique sapphire that belonged to his grandmother, exactly what I'd always wanted instead of a traditional diamond. I had high hopes for Rosewood Manor, this gorgeous historic mansion with gardens that looked like something out of a fairy tale. The place had sweeping marble staircases, crystal chandeliers imported from France, and rose gardens that bloomed year-round in heated greenhouses. The ballroom had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the lake, and couples were allowed to have their ceremony in a garden pavilion that looked like something out of a romantic movie. It was fully booked for 2 years in advance, but I had been calling every month since Derek proposed, hoping for a cancellation. The coordinator, Mrs. Patterson, was beginning to recognize my voice. "Still hoping for September, honey?" she would ask kindly. "September 17th specifically," I would tell her each time. "It's the anniversary of our first date." Finally, 8 months before the planned date, they called. Someone had called off their September wedding, a sloppy divorce where the bride caught the groom with her maid of honor. They had 1 day off available, September 17th. Exactly what we wanted. I screamed so loudly. Derek came running from the kitchen, thinking something was wrong, still holding the crepe pan he was flipping pancakes with. "We got it!" I sobbed into the phone to Mrs. Patterson. "We'll take it." "That's great, honey. I'm so glad it worked out for you. You were so patient and persistent." I immediately put down a $5,000 deposit, using the credit card Derek and I had been saving specifically for wedding expenses. We lived like college students for months, splitting grocery bills and avoiding restaurants to save every penny. That evening, I called my mother to share the news. This was the place I'd dreamed of walking down the aisle at since I was 12, when I'd attended my cousin Rebecca's wedding. I'd wandered the grounds all night during the reception, imagining my own wedding someday. "Oh, honey, this is wonderful," she said, and I could hear the joy in her voice. "Have you told your family yet?" I called everyone that night, my grandparents, my cousins, my dad's sister, Vivian. Everyone was thrilled for us. Vivian seemed especially excited, asking detailed questions about the venue, the date, even the specific package we'd chosen. "How much was the deposit?" she asked during our 20-minute conversation. "What's their cancellation policy? Do they require references or proof of income? What about the insurance requirements?" I thought she was just being thorough, perhaps considering the venue for her daughter Melody someday. Vivian was a successful corporate lawyer who specialized in contractual disputes, always asking pointed questions about fine print and legal guarantees. I answered everything honestly, too nervous to suspect. In retrospect, I should have realized she was gathering information. "The ceremony venue seats up to 200 guests," I told her, "and the reception ballroom can accommodate 150 for dinner. We're planning on about 120 people total." "What time is your ceremony?" 4 o'clock, golden hour for photos, then cocktails on the terrace at sunset." She asked about catering options, floral arrangements, even which bridal suite I'd booked to get ready. I shared every detail, thrilled that someone from family was taking such an interest in our wedding plans. 2 weeks later, I received a call from Rosewood Manor that would change everything. "Ms. Rodriguez, I'm afraid there's been a terrible mix-up," Mrs. Patterson said, her voice tight and apologetic. She sounded like she'd been crying. "We accidentally double-booked September 17th. The other bride has the same date." My stomach dropped to the floor. The room began to spin. "But I have a signed contract. I put down a deposit 2 weeks ago. You called me personally." "Yes. Well, the other party has a contract too, and their deposit was significantly larger, $15,000 compared to your 5. We are prepared to offer you a full refund plus $500 for your inconvenience." $15,000? Who puts up $15,000 for a wedding venue? Mrs. Patterson was silent for a long moment. "The other bride's mother is a lawyer. She claims we made a verbal agreement for this date 6 months ago and is threatening to sue if we don't follow through. We simply can't afford to fight this in court." "So you are breaking a signed contract to avoid a lawsuit from someone who is lying?" "I'm so sorry. This has never happened before. We will put you at the top of our list for any future cancellations." I hung up, devastated. Derek found me sobbing on the couch, still in my work clothes, mascara running down my face. He held me while I cried for hours, stroking my hair and promising we'd find something even better. The next day, my mom called with an odd, awkward tone in her voice. "Honey, I have to tell you something. Vivian's daughter, Melody, just got engaged." My blood ran cold. Melody was 24, had been dating her boyfriend, Cameron, for only 8 months, and had never shown any interest in marriage before. When she booked Rosewood Manor for September 17th last week, right after you called the family about your venue, everything fell into place like puzzle pieces from hell. Vivian pumped me for information, then somehow convinced the venue to give us our date. She used every detail I shared, the date, the time, the package, even the bridal suite, to make it seem like she'd been planning this wedding for months. "Mom, that's impossible. Melody wasn't even engaged when I called Vivian." "I know, honey. The whole family is talking about it. The timeline doesn't make sense." I called Mrs. Patterson back, demanding answers. "The other bride's mother claims they had a verbal agreement for September 17th, dating back 6 months," she said defensively. "She has documentation of a visit to the venue and emails about pricing." "What documentation?" "Photos of her daughter at the venue, saved emails about pricing." I later learned that Vivian had driven to Rosewood Manor the day after our phone call, taken photos of Melody posing on the grounds, and doctored the emails using her legal expertise in digital forensics. She had created an entire fake paper trail over a 48-hour period. "She's lying," I told Mrs. Patterson, "and you know it. Check your own records. I've been calling you every month for almost a year. I understand your frustration, but we need to protect ourselves legally. Ms. Hartwell is a very prominent attorney, and she has threatened to sue us for breach of contract, discriminatory booking practices, and intentional interference with business relationships. We are a small family business. We cannot afford that kind of legal battle." That's when I realized what had really happened. Vivian hadn't just stolen our date. She had used her law degree and reputation to bully a small business into submission. She was making threats she probably couldn't legally back up, but Mrs. Patterson didn't know that. At the family barbecue that weekend, the dynamic was immediately different. Everyone was tiptoeing around, stealing glances at Melody and me. My cousins knew something was wrong, but no one wanted to address the elephant in the room. Vivian cornered me at the dessert table, fake sympathy dripping from her voice. "I heard about your venue situation," she said, not meeting my eyes. "It happens in the wedding industry. Maybe it's a sign that you should go with a simpler wedding. Not everyone wants such an extravagant affair." The patronizing tone in her voice made my blood boil. She spoke to me as if I were a child who had been denied a toy at a store. Melody fluttered past in a designer dress I recognized from Instagram. $400 for something she'd probably wear once. She was chatting with our cousins about her impromptu wedding plans. "I've dreamed of getting married in Rosewood since I was a kid," she said, which was a complete lie. She'd never mentioned the place before in her life. "Mommy made sure I got the perfect date. September 17th is going to be absolutely magical." She emphasized the date like the twist of a knife, making sure I'd heard. "Isn't that the same date you wanted?" my cousin David asked innocently. Melody shrugged. "Great minds think alike, I suppose. Although we booked first." So that was the moment I decided to play the long game. Standing there, watching Melody bask in the glory of her stolen venue while Vivian smirked over her glass of wine, I made a silent promise. This wasn't over. I smiled sweetly at Vivian. "You're absolutely right. Everything happens for a reason." I spent the next 2 years watching and waiting, like a spider spinning an invisible web. Derek and I had a beautiful wedding at a mountain farm, a rustic venue that actually suited our personalities better than a formal mansion. The ceremony took place in a meadow of wildflowers, with the mountains as our backdrop. It was intimate, personal, and cost half as much as Rosewood would have. But I never forgot what Vivian had done. What's more, I've never forgotten the smug satisfaction on her face when she told me to settle for something simpler. I followed Melody through social media, poring over every post like I was studying for a PhD. The girl was obsessed with status, constantly posting about her upcoming wedding plans, her dream honeymoon destinations, her perfect dress designers. She documented every bridal magazine she bought, every wedding show she attended, every venue she toured. There was one place that had appeared in her posts more than any other since college: Belmont Castle, a castle-like estate 2 hours upstate that hosted just 12 weddings a year. It was the most exclusive venue in the region, with a year-long waiting list and prices starting at $30,000 just to rent the venue. Melody had been posting photos of Belmont Castle since she was 19, naming it as her future wedding location in every description. She would travel there to take Instagram photos in front of the gates, claiming it would be the most exclusive wedding ever. She would screenshot magazine articles about celebrities who had gotten married there and post them with captions like, "I'll be like this in a few years." The castle was everything Melody valued: expensive, exclusive, and guaranteed to make her the envy of everyone she knew. It was also completely out of her financial reach, but that never stopped her from publicly dreaming about it. When Melody and her boyfriend Cameron finally got engaged last month after 3 years, I watched her Instagram stories obsessively. She posted a video tour of Belmont Castle the day after Cameron proposed with the caption, "Finally making this dream come true. Calling tomorrow to book our date." It was obvious she'd been preparing for this moment for years, waiting for Cameron to propose so she could announce her dream location. That's when I struck. I called the castle at exactly 9 a.m. the next morning, before they'd even finished their first coffee. "Good morning. This is Belmont Castle. How can I help you?" "I was wondering about availability for a wedding next September," I told the coordinator in a smooth, professional voice. "Sure, let me check our calendar. We have September 8th and September 22nd available." Great. Melody's Instagram showed a screenshot of her calendar app with September 22nd circled in red and the caption, "Dream wedding date, Belmont Castle." "I'll take September 22nd, I said, without hesitation. "I'd like to put down the deposit today." "Great. Our standard deposit is $15,000 to secure the date, with the balance due 60 days prior to your event." I had been saving for 2 years for this moment. While Derek and I were living in our tiny apartment, driving used cars and cooking dinner at home every night, I was building up what we privately called our equity fund. We had exactly $25,000 sitting in a separate savings account, money we'd saved by working overtime, selling unwanted items, and living like monks. "I can pay 20 grand, I said. "I want to guarantee that the date is absolutely locked in with no room for cancellation or rescheduling." "That's very generous, but 15 is our standard." 20, I insisted firmly. "I've heard stories of venues double booking dates, and I want this contract to be ironclad. Money talks, and I want mine to talk real loud." The coordinator paused for a moment, probably calculating how much extra profit they would make. "We can certainly accommodate you. A $20,000 deposit will get you our Platinum Priority status, with additional benefits and guarantees." An hour later, I had a signed contract for September 22nd at Belmont Castle, with stronger legal guarantees than most people have when buying a home. The contract explicitly stated that the date could not be transferred, canceled, or changed without the written consent of both parties. Then I waited. 3 days later, Melody's Instagram story showed her crying in her car outside the castle gates. "I can't believe this happened," she sobbed into the camera, her perfect makeup running down her face. "Someone booked my dream venue literally hours before I called. They won't even put me on the wait list because the other couple put down such a huge deposit that they're platinum." She filmed herself walking toward the main entrance, only to be turned away by security. "They said another bride had exclusive rights to book the entire weekend. I've been dreaming about this place for 6 years, and now it's gone." I screenshot the video and saved it to my phone, along with all the other posts of her hysteria. Evidence for later. Over the next few weeks, I watched Melody's increasingly desperate posts about trying to find a replacement. She'd scouted every luxury venue within 100 miles, but nothing compared to the castle. Everything was either too casual, too small, too expensive, or already booked by other brides who were planning ahead. Meanwhile, I began planning the second phase of my revenge. I created a fake Instagram account under the name Elena Vasquez, with the backstory that she was a marketing consultant from Chicago. I followed everyone in the family, including Melody, and began posting lifestyle content that would fit naturally. Then I started sharing photos from Belmont Castle's website and social media, talking about my upcoming wedding there. "So happy I booked the castle for September 22nd, I wrote, using a hashtag I knew Melody followed religiously. "Can't wait for the most magical day. Dream wedding at Belmont Castle." I was blessed. A few hours later, Melody found the post and left a comment. "OMG, so jealous. This is literally a dream venue. How did you manage to book it? I called the same day and they said it was full. I responded publicly, digging the knife a little deeper. Just really lucky timing. Had to put down a huge deposit, but it was worth it for my dream wedding. Sometimes you gotta invest in your dreams, you know? That night, Melody posted a bittersweet tale of fake people on Instagram showing off their perfect lives and rich girls who don't appreciate what they have. The comments below her post grew increasingly angry as her friends began pointing out that she'd had years to secure the castle if it was truly that important to her. "Girl, you've been posting about this place since college," one friend wrote. "Why didn't you just save up and book it sooner?" Melody's response was exactly what I'd expected. "It's not that easy. Do you know how expensive this is? My mom helped me finance it." Further proof that even with Vivian's lawyer salary, they couldn't afford the place Melody had dreamed of. At Christmas dinner, the family drama reached a fever pitch. Melody spent the entire meal complaining about her wedding problems, while Vivian made increasingly pointed comments about people who were unreasonable in their wedding expectations and didn't understand how the world worked. "Maybe you should think about something a little more modest," my mother suggested gently, trying to diffuse the tension. Vivian's face darkened like a storm cloud. "Melody deserves better. Some people just don't understand the importance of maintaining family standards and creating memorable experiences." She gave me a look that could have melted steel. My grandmother, bless her, decided to add fuel to the fire. "What about that beautiful mansion where you had your wedding, Melody? The one with the roses?" "Was it just the venue, Grandma?" Melody said dismissively. "The castle is in a whole other league. It's where celebrities get married." My cousin David intervened, completely unaware of the minefield he was treading on. "Didn't you book Elena's venue a couple of years ago? Maybe you should ask Elena to return the favor and put Melody in touch with her venue contacts." The table instantly went silent. You could have heard a pin drop in the next county. Vivian's face cycled through about 6 different emotions before settling on barely contained fury. "That was completely different," she said through clenched teeth. "There was a legitimate scheduling conflict that had to be resolved through the proper legal channels." "Wasn't Elena there first?" David continued, enthusiastically digging his own grave. "I remember her calling everyone about booking Rosewood Manor months before Melody even got engaged." My uncle tried to change the subject, but David was on to something. "Actually, wasn't the chronology a little odd? Elena called us about booking her venue. Then, about 2 weeks later, Melody suddenly got engaged and got the same venue on the same day. What are the chances?" I spoke for the first time all evening. My voice is sweet as honey. "It's okay, David. Everything worked out for the best. Our barn wedding was just perfect. Sometimes the universe has better plans than we do." Vivian looked like she wanted to strangle me with Christmas lights. After dinner, she cornered me in the kitchen while I helped with the dishes, her lawyer mask firmly in place. "I know what you're doing," she hissed, lowering her voice so the others wouldn't hear. "What am I doing?" I asked innocently, continuing to dry the wine glasses. "You booked this castle to spite Melody. It's petty and childish, and it hurts an innocent girl who's just trying to plan her wedding." I turned to face her, dropping all pretense of civility for the first time in 2 years. "You threatened to sue my wedding venue to steal my date. You used your law degree to intimidate a small business into cheating its real client. You created a fake paper trail to make it look like Melody booked first, then told me to throw a smaller wedding because I wasn't worth the extravagant affair." Her mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. "It was business," she finally murmured. "Venues often get double booked. We were protecting Melody's interests." "Just like this," I replied sweetly. "I saved for 2 years to afford my dream venue, like you taught me. Sometimes you have to pay more to get what you want. Sometimes you have to use all your perks. You're not even using it. How do you know? Maybe Derek and I are planning a vow renewal. Maybe I want to celebrate our 2nd anniversary somewhere special. Maybe I'm going to auction it off for charity. My contract doesn't require me to justify my plans to you." The truth was, I hadn't decided what to do with the reservation yet. Part of me wanted to use it to spite them, to throw the most extravagant vow renewal in the family's history. Part of me considered selling it to someone else at cost, just to make sure Melody couldn't have it. But as I stood there and watched Vivian's face turn crimson with rage, a better idea occurred to me. You can't be serious about leaving him just to hurt Melody. Why not? You left my venue to help her. It's a win-win. It's different. No, it's not. You saw an opportunity to give your daughter what she wanted, and you took it, no matter who got hurt. I'm doing the same thing, but you're hurting an innocent person. I laughed. Actually laughed out loud. Innocent. Melody knew exactly what you did. She gloated about having my venue, at a barbecue. She highlighted the date for me to hear. She posted about her dream wedding on Instagram, knowing I would see. She was not innocent. She was complicit. Vivian stood there for a long time, probably trying to figure out if she could threaten me the way she had threatened Mrs. Patterson. "What do you want?" she asked finally. "Nothing you can give me," I said. "You can't undo what you've done. You can't give me back my original wedding date or the venue I've dreamed of since I was 12. You can't erase the months of stress and heartache you've caused. This isn't about what I want anymore. It's about the consequences. So you're going to ruin your daughter's wedding to prove a point? I'm going to let your daughter experience what I went through. The disappointment, the frantic scramble to find alternatives, the feeling of having your dreams crushed by someone with more money and connections. Maybe this will teach her empathy. She's learned her lesson. Isn't that enough? Has she? Because from what I've seen on her social media, she's learned that sometimes life isn't fair. Not that her actions have consequences. She plays the victim without taking responsibility. I dried the last glass and hung up the towel. You taught me something important 2 years ago. Vivian, you taught me that the world belongs to the people who are willing to do whatever it takes to get what they want. You taught me that having money and connections means you can take what's not yours. You taught me that the only thing that matters is winning. I headed for the door, then turned back. So thank you. I couldn't have done it without everything you taught me. 2 weeks later, I put my plan into action. I called the chateau and spoke to their event coordinator. I'd like to discuss some options for my reservation for September 22nd. I said to her, "Sure, how can I help you? I've changed my mind about weddings. My husband and I got married in Vegas last month. Very spontaneous, very romantic, but I still have this beautiful place booked, and I don't want to let it go to waste." "Oh my, that's quite unexpected. What would you like to do with the reservation?" "I'd like to donate it to a charity auction, if possible. I want the proceeds to go to the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia for childhood cancer research." The coordinator was thrilled. It was unprecedented, but they were happy to help me with the details. The hospital could auction off the venue reservations to raise money, and the winning bidder would get a wedding reception at the chateau for whatever price they offered, likely well below the usual price. "That's incredibly generous," she said. "I'm sure the hospital would be thrilled." "Just make sure the auction is well advertised," I said. "I want as many people as possible to know about it." When the auction went live 2 weeks later, I made sure Melody saw it immediately. I shared the link on my fake Instagram account with a carefully chosen caption. "Had to cancel a wedding at the chateau due to a sudden engagement. We couldn't wait, but so glad this will help sick kids instead." Sometimes things work out just the way they're supposed to. Hopefully some lucky couple gets to have the wedding of their dreams while supporting an amazing cause. Trish Chateau Belmont Church Childhood Cancer Charity Auction Emergencies Come True. I tagged it with all the wedding hashtags Melody followed, ensuring it would show up in her feed. Melody commented a few minutes later, "Wait, people can actually bid on this? Where do the bids start?" The opening bid was $10,000. Still a third of the usual venue cost, but more than Melody could afford. I knew this because she'd been ranting about her wedding budget woes for months, complaining about the cost of everything from flowers to photography. "Starting at 10 grand, but could go higher, depending on interest," I said. What an incredible opportunity for someone. I watched her Instagram stories document her frantic hustle over the next few days. She'd launched a GoFundMe called "Help Melody Get Her Dream Wedding Venue." She'd asked family members for loans. She'd posted about selling her collection of designer handbags. She even considered taking on a part-time job or taking out a personal loan. Meanwhile, word of the charity auction spread through social media and the local news. The story of a bride donating her dream wedding venue to help sick children resonated with people, and the bidding became fierce. 5 different couples bid heavily, gradually pushing the price up. I watched the auction page obsessively, seeing Melody's username appear in the bidding history, only to disappear when the price became too high for her. She posted increasingly desperate Instagram stories as the auction progressed. "It's 15 grand now, and I've exhausted all my options," she said, crying again in the car. "I can't believe my dream venue is going to slip away again. It's so unfair." The comments under her posts weren't sympathetic. Girl, it's for charity. One friend wrote, maybe focus on that instead of feeling sorry for yourself. You've been complaining about wedding venues for months. Another added, maybe take this as a sign to spend less and appreciate what you have. The cruelest comment came from a stranger. Imagine being upset that sick kids are getting money instead of you getting a fancy party. But the comment that really got the point across was from our mutual cousin Rebecca. Weren't you the ones who took Elena's venue a couple of years ago? This feels like karma. Melody's response was defensive and revealing. This was different. We had a legitimate claim to the venue. This was just someone being angry. Several people called her out on the comment, asking how it was legal to appropriate someone else's wedding venue. Melody eventually deleted the entire post. The auction lasted 2 weeks. I documented every moment, watching Melody's hope turn to despair and then bitter resignation. Her posts grew angrier and more demanding. I don't understand why the universe keeps blocking me from having the wedding of my dreams, she wrote. I'm a good person. I deserve it. The final bidding war unfolded between a young couple from Philadelphia and an older couple renewing their vows for their 25th anniversary. The bid had risen to $28,000, nearly double what the hospital had hoped for. Melody posted one last story after the auction ended, crying harder than I'd ever seen her cry. I can't believe my dream venue went to charity and not me, she sobbed. I know it's for a good cause, but this was supposed to be my wedding. I've been planning this since college. Why does everything I want always go to someone else? The comments section exploded. People were horrified by her selfishness, pointing out that she was literally upset that children with cancer were getting funding for their treatment. How can you be mad at children getting help? One person wrote. Maybe that's why you're not getting what you want. Another added, your priorities are upside down, but it was my cousin David's comment that really sealed Melody's fate. You didn't get Elena's wedding venue 2 years ago and now you're mad that someone else got yours? Can't you see the irony? The comment received dozens of likes and sparked a thread where other family members began sharing their own memories of the Rosewood Manor situation. The whole story unfolded in the comments. How Vivian tortured me for information, threatened the venue with a lawsuit, and stole our date for Melody's emergency engagement party. So Elena's dream venue had been taken away and given to Melody, but now Elena had to feel bad that Melody couldn't get her dream venue. Rebecca wrote, "Make it make sense." Within hours, the post had hundreds of comments, mostly from strangers who had found it through reposts and hashtags. Melody was humiliated online for her demanding attitude and lack of self-awareness. The next day, she deleted her entire Instagram account. 3 days later, I received a text from an unknown number. It's Vivian. We need to talk now. I ignored it. She called 5 times over the next hour. I sent each call to voicemail. Her messages grew more desperate. Answer your phone. I know you're getting these messages. This has gone too far. You're ruining my daughter's reputation. She finally showed up at my house at 8 o'clock that night, relentlessly pressing my intercom until I answered. You've done it, she said when I met her in the hall. Now fix it. Fix what? Melody's wedding. Her reputation. The damage you've caused. I almost laughed. I didn't cause any damage. I donated my venue reservation to charity. I have no control over what other people say about it. You orchestrated this whole thing to humiliate her. I donated $20,000 towards the cost of the wedding to help kids with cancer. How is that demeaning to anyone? Don't play innocent. You knew she wanted the venue. You knew the auction would be public. You knew people would find out about what happened 2 years ago. I didn't really know that last part. I just wanted to do something good with the venue since I didn't need it anymore. If people associate that with what you did to me, that's their own conclusion. Vivian's face turned red with anger. Give my daughter her venue back. I can't. It was auctioned off. The new couple has a contract. Then find another venue for her. You clearly have money to spend. My entire savings of $20,000 went into a deposit at the chateau. I'm as broke as the next person would be after spending that much money. I'll make it up to you in any way I can. I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. Number. Why not? Haven't you heard enough from her? Did I offend her? Or did I just refuse to indulge her? Melody is 26. If she wanted this venue, she should have saved up and booked it herself, not expected her mother to steal someone else's date again. You're vindictive and cruel. I'm just as vindictive and cruel as you were to me. The only difference is that this time, someone else got to benefit from the collateral damage. Vivian stared at me for a long minute. probably calculating whether she could threaten me the same way she had threatened Mrs. Patterson. "It's not over," she finally said. "Yes, it is," I answered calmly. "Unless you want me to start talking publicly about what you did 2 years ago. I have documentation. I have witnesses. I have Mrs. Patterson's contact information, and she remembers every detail of how you bullied her into breaking my contract." Vivian's face went pale. "You will not test me. Your daughter's reputation has already been tarnished by her own social media posts. Do you really want people to know the full story of how she got her last venue?" Vivian walked away without another word. The charity auction raised $28,000 for childhood cancer research. The winning bidders were Emma and James, a young couple who sent me a handwritten thank you card for making their dream wedding possible at a price they could afford. "You'll never know how much this means to us," Emma wrote. "We saved for 3 years for our wedding, and we never thought we'd be able to afford a venue as beautiful as the chateau. The fact that our wedding also benefits sick children makes it even more special." They included photos from their engagement shoot at the venue. They looked so happy, so genuinely grateful for the opportunity. It reminded me why I made the right choice. Melody eventually found another venue, the Sunset Country Club, a nice enough place that cost a quarter of what the chateau had cost. Her wedding was beautiful, according to the Instagram photos she posted after reactivating her account with strict privacy settings. But every post in the caption mentioned that it wasn't her dream venue and that she had to settle for second best and make the best of a difficult situation. Even on what should have been the happiest day of her life, she couldn't stop playing the victim. Wedding photos showed a forced smile that didn't reach her eyes. In the occasional shot, she looked genuinely miserable. Vivian stood next to her in family photos, both feigning happiness without feeling it. 6 months later, Derek and I used some of our rebuilt savings for a romantic anniversary trip to Paris. We visited the real chateau, took beautiful photos at Versailles, and ate at restaurants we could never afford at home. I may have posted a few Instagram photos with captions about living life to the fullest, and sometimes the best revenge is happiness, and I'm grateful for all the unexpected blessings that come from following your values. Melody unfollowed me within hours of my first post about Paris. A year later, the consequences of Vivian's actions had finally caught up with her professionally. Someone, I have no idea who, filed a detailed report on her habit of using legal threats to gain the benefit of her family and friends. The report included testimony from Mrs. Patterson of Rosewood Manor, documentation of similar incidents with other small businesses, and evidence of her misuse of her law firm's letterhead to make personal threats. The State Bar launched an investigation. Vivian's largest client, a technology company that prided itself on its ethical business practices, terminated its contract after the story was picked up by a local business magazine. Her law firm quietly asked her to take early retirement to avoid negative publicity. 2 months later, she moved to Florida. Melody's marriage lasted exactly 18 months. According to family gossip, Cameron got tired of her constant complaints about how their wedding wasn't good enough, their apartment wasn't nice enough, their honeymoon wasn't expensive enough. He filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences. But everyone knew the real problem was Melody's inability to appreciate what she had while obsessively wanting what she didn't. She moved back in with her parents in Florida, where she posts hurtful Instagram stories about how some people get everything handed to them on a platter and how life is unfair to people with high standards. Derek and I celebrated our 3rd wedding anniversary last month. We're planning a trip to Italy for our 5th anniversary, and we're considering renting a villa in Tuscany for a week. We learned that the most satisfying revenge isn't taking something from someone, but building a life so wonderful that their petty cruelties become unimportant. But sometimes, late at night when I can't sleep, I think about that moment in Mrs. Patterson's voice when she told me my venue had been stolen. I think about Melody's smug face at the barbecue. I think about Vivian telling me to settle for the simpler things. And then I think about Emma and James dancing at their wedding in the chateau, about the $28,000 raised for kids with cancer, about the lesson in consequences that Melody learned too late. Derek sometimes asks me if I regret what I did, if I think I went too far. I tell him the truth. I regret that it was necessary. I regret that some people only learn empathy when they themselves are hurt. I regret that Vivian raised a daughter who thinks the world owes her everything she wants. But I don't regret the act itself, because sometimes the only way to stop a bully is to show them what it's like to be powerless. And sometimes the best way to honor your dreams is to make sure someone else's dreams come true.